Welcome to Invested Souls, the podcast where real estate expertise meets relationship growth.
And we're your hosts, the Flanagans. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jamie. This podcast is your chance to learn from our experiences and follow in our footsteps. Whether you're an entrepreneur, investor, or real estate professional, we've got the insights and strategies to help you elevate your wealth and achieve financial freedom.
But it's not just all about real estate. We believe that thriving in life means nurturing the relationships that matter most.
That's right. We'll be talking about how to balance your personal and professional life so you can create a fulfilling and prosperous future.
So join us on Invested Souls and let's grow together in wealth, relationships, and success.
Ready to elevate your life? Let's get started. Welcome to Invested Souls. Welcome back, everybody, to Invested Souls. I'm Jamie Flanagan, your host, and today I have Mark Walker on the call. I'm so excited because I have had lots of referrals from California agents, but I've never had the opportunity to interview an agent investor from California. So I'm kind of excited because I think a lot of people, we have like this misconception that we're like two separate, like California is like its own entity and they do things totally different. And I want to dig into that.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So Mark's in Southern California. And Mark, what areas do you cover specifically?
So specifically, I'm located in Los Angeles proper in the LA basin. But because I'm so central to Los Angeles, I can be as far north as like Santa Barbara County and as far south as San Diego if I need to. You know, I go east as far as Palm Springs and beyond and west to the ocean. All depends on what my clients need.
Awesome. Okay, so one of the biggest things you deal with currently that we kind of talked about before we started recording is the affordability factor. And so what are you seeing in California as far as like not maybe for first-time home buyers as well as investors? Do you see investors? I mean, everyone's like the laws and the rules in California are so crazy, but obviously people own rental properties there because otherwise nobody would be like nobody would have housing if there were no rental properties, right? So obviously it happens.
It does happen. And so here it is in what I see and what my investors find success with, right? Regardless of the rules and regulations, because even within Southern California, there are different rules for different locations. LA, the city of LA has its own rent control. The city of West Hollywood has a stricter rent control. Excuse me. The city of Beverly Hills has a separate set of rent control laws, right?
Oh yeah.
So it sounds confusing and it can get really complicated and complex. However, this is the thing. What I have learned is that screening tenants is the key. If you can get good tenants on your property, then those laws are just there as guide rails for you. But it all comes down to making sure you get good tenants. And what that basically means, and so for my investor clients who are buying multi-unit properties, we try to buy vacant properties so that they can place their tenants,
I'm with you,
right?
and I'm in Nebraska, or like our properties are in Nebraska.
There you go. You buy them vacant so that you can choose your tenants, and you make sure you have someone willing to collect the applications and meet the tenants in person and screen the tenants. And when they present you an application package, it's not just, hey, here's an application, please put this person in. It's
Right.
no, we have called their previous landlord. We know their payment history. We know their credit. We know their personality. We see what they drive up in. You know what I mean? You can't, obviously, you can't discriminate. And so it's not
100%.
about discrimination. But especially if you own like a 2 to 4 unit property, if one of your tenants flies off the rails, you know, because of the tenant protections, you're stuck as a landlord. You know, 90% of my landlord success, my property investor success is in the screening. If you can screen and you have someone working for you to make sure your tenants will, I mean, granted, obviously you can't like there's life that happens to people, right?
There's still risk in this business.
Exactly. However, you can mitigate that risk. And there are people who have a great credit history for a reason, because they care. And those are the tenants that we're screening for. My
Yeah.
property owners say no a lot, because it is different if you have like a 20-unit apartment building, right? If you want
Totally.
to be open and give somebody a try because of a hard luck story on one of your 20 units, that's fine. Because if something happens and that person goes off the rails, you have 19 units and you're still running in a positive cash flow, right? But
Yeah.
in a 2 to 4, it becomes extraordinarily important to make sure your tenants are qualified.
It's funny though, because like we have a 10-unit building and we every time it's like interesting because if we place one bad tenant, it trickles. You got the neighbor who's mad, and then you've got the person downstairs who's like, hey, they're smoking weed upstairs. And
Yeah, right.
it all of a sudden becomes like a whole thing. And you're like, oh gosh, like this really trickled into all these other aspects. And we've learned like that, we learned the hard way.
Yeah, well, and it
Yeah, just be strict.
and that's it. You have to be strict in the beginning. It's with that selection, and sometimes you have to be patient, and you have to let the unit sit a little vacant for a little bit longer so that you can find the right tenant. I think that is the main component when it comes to beating these strict rent control, not beating, but working within the bounds of
Yeah,
those strict rent control laws, and having the most success within that framework, right? Uh,
totally.
I do have clients every year who come back to me and say, "Oh, it's getting too crazy in California. I'm selling, I'm moving." You know, and that's great. We refer them to wherever they need to go in other parts of the country. But by the same token, there are still opportunities here, because LA particularly is kind of a bowl, and it's
Okay.
full, you know.
Right.
So they're not building, hey, there's 20 new units built over here. There's, oh, look, there's a whole new development over here. That's
Mhm.
done. So properties continue to rise in value,
Right.
and rents continue to rise in value, right? And because of the rapid rise in rents, especially for vacant units, properties can still make sense and they can still pencil out. The prices are higher, but the
Yeah.
income that you're generating from the units are higher.
What I find is really cool about my clients that have sold properties in California is obviously the equity gains.
Right.
Like it's like when you get 4% on a million or eight, I mean, when we were freaking COVID, like 20%. I
Right.
mean, that's massive when you're buying in Nebraska and it's 200,000. 4% is like, oh,
Right.
like I covered the commission.
Well,
Like,
and that's just it. Like, even for my first time buyers who get in with a 2 to 4 unit situation, they're basically using it as a way to get into the market in order to move up and get to whatever their
mhm,
further goals are. It's an entry level way in. You buy a
totally.
2 to 4, you can use the same financing as you would for a single family home and live in one, make the payments as if you're renting. One of my clients, okay, she actually taught me, this was years ago, 4-unit property in Glendale, California. A little cute little 2-bedroom house in the front with a studio attached. And in the back, there
Wow.
was a separate garage and then another building that had a 1-bedroom and another studio apartment. So 4 units on the property. I'm relatively new at this stage, right? Like, I'm still at this point learning from my clients, right?
Yep.
I'm walking in and I'm showing the 2-bedroom house and I'm like, "Oh, this is so cute. This could be your bedroom." And it was just her, and this could be your office. And she said to me, she was like, "No, no, 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 no. I want to talk about that studio." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And so I went back, showed her the studio. She was like, "Great. I'm going to put a loft bed up here. I'll put my sofa down below." So she bought a 4-unit property, lived in the smallest unit, didn't live in the biggest unit. She lived in the smallest unit, raised the rents to market value on all the other units. And within 3 months, she was living for free. The,
Wow,
the,
I
the,
love
pro-
her.
the property was paying for itself. She drove a Mercedes, right? She wasn't using the property as income, but she found a way to eliminate the largest bill she had, which was either her rent or her mortgage,
I mean, to live
because
for free in LA sounds pretty unreal.
Absolutely, absolutely. She had a great job, and she just got to pocket the money from her job. She traveled. She was living her best life in her little studio apartment, right?
Love that. Oh my
And
gosh,
so
that's
and
so
so
funny.
because that happened so early on, it kinda opened my eyes. It was like, "Wait a minute. Hold on. How can like, for folks who are moving here, you can actually eliminate their rent payment or their
Yeah,
mortgage payment completely? That's the biggest bill we have."
right.
Right? So, she lived in that studio apartment for 2 years, and then she called me and she was like, "Okay, Mark, I think it's time. I just want a bedroom." Right? "What can we do to get me a bedroom?" So, we refinanced that property because of that appreciation you were talking about. She had made such an incredible amount, like, she
Oh
had
my
made, like,
gosh,
$150,000 in those 2 years in equity in that property.
love it.
And, she pulled out enough to put a down payment on a duplex in Pasadena. She got herself a one-bedroom. She The other side was a two-bedroom, so that property, she again was living for free and rented out the studio that she had moved out of in the fourplex. So now the fourplex in Glendale was positive cash flow as she was living for
Wow,
free in the property in Pasadena.
love
So
it.
again, it's using the system, it's using all of your rules, regulations, laws, and just kind of thinking creatively about, okay, how can I uh, make my financial goals work for me?
Yep,
And so for her, living for free was the financial goal. She was like, I really want to travel. I love my Mercedes. I don't want to be house poor. And so just finding things like that. And it was about, and she did come to me to help screen out the tenants and make sure she got good tenants because that was a huge part of it. Even though, because especially because she was living on the property with her tenants, right? She
yeah,
didn't want problems
right.
dumped on her front door.
That's one
Um,
of the things, like, it's interesting because we've done, like, house hacking
yeah,
where we've bought a really big property and rented portions of our home out,
yeah.
but we've always done it through, like, Airbnb or Furnished Finder,
Hmm.
and we've been really lucky. Like, we've met some people are like, "You're that's so crazy," but I actually found it to be one of the most it's actually one of the highlights of our lives. Like, we met some really cool people. We used to like we had a pool in our backyard and
Hmm.
we'd like be roasting marshmallows and our guests would come out and we'd be like hanging out and we never had anything like crazy. We had one. We have one,
Yep.
but out of all the tenants in all the years, and
Right.
he was
There's
actually a really nice guy. It just unfortunately, he was an alcoholic and we didn't know, and so he kind of ruined the unit. But he was nice, so I have
well,
no
and
hard feelings with him, like as a person. And
sure.
alcoholism is a terrible thing.
Right.
But it's funny, like we just look back and I'm like, gosh, all the people I met, I sold houses to people that lived with us. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
they were in between housing and became long, like friends, like out of those. So,
absolutely.
but
And
it's
that's
a pretty
the
cool thing.
benefit
Yep.
of living with sharing your house in that way,
Yeah.
right? And at the same time, they're helping you financially and they're just taking care of their own needs, like they're living.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, so if it's structured right, it could be a win-win for everybody.
Totally a win-win. Yeah. So what are you seeing for pricing for like obviously it depends on the market. I
Sure.
know LA is very like there's lots of niches. But what are you like from a affordability standpoint, like what would a 2 to 4 unit complex look like? Or what are you guys looking at per unit?
So it goes like this. LA is, and I kind of touched on this before, LA is this crazy patchwork of neighborhoods, right? From Beverly Hills is a separate market from West Hollywood, is a separate market from like the niche neighborhoods that are showing up where the hipsters are moving, like Atwater Village and Highland Park, and now out to El Sereno, right? There are all of these different neighborhoods. So it's really about we focus first on budget. We focus first on, hey, what is the individual investor budget? Right. And then we kind of find the neighborhood where that budget fits.
Hmm.
And we find the neighborhood where the rental will support that budget. And so it can be anything from, I sold a duplex for just this past year for $675,000 in yeah,
Really?
in a neighborhood of South LA. It was two one bedrooms, And my client was totally happy with it because it had room to add more. And he was a contractor. So he was like, oh, great. I can add this and I
Yeah.
can add that. The neighborhood wouldn't be considered like great, but it was close to where a lot of the Olympic stuff is being
Oh, really?
because the Olympics are coming to LA in
Oh, okay.
2026,
I
I
need to
believe.
pay attention to that
Yeah,
stuff. I don't.
2028.
Sports
So
are so far off my radar.
so he was like, "Oh, okay, I can do this and I can, add this," and the rents supported the purchase. So it's a really it's all about the range, and it's
Yeah.
all about what each individual investor's price range is, because we can do anything from a 675 duplex to a $2.5 million duplex in a nicer neighborhood. I sold
Mhm.
a new construction. Each unit was 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, townhouse style, for 2.8 million, more mid city.
Yeah.
And so it all depends on where you want to be and what the rents are. And it's the rents here that make the difference,
Yep.
especially with new construction. One of the interesting rental laws in California is the first 15 years of the life of the building are considered new construction, and rent control laws don't apply. So
Really?
if it's a new construction building, you have 15 years where you can charge market rent. If someone moves out, you can raise the rent. Like, you can kind of 15 years. They're like, okay, this is for the builders, investors, developers, because we want more. The city wants more new construction built,
So
right?
basically, because you said it's full, it's basically demoing something and building
Correct.
new. Okay.
Correct. So when something is, you get an older home and the investor buys it, tears it down, builds a new fourplex or builds a new duplex. For the
That's really
investor,
that's good, right? I mean, that's so
abs-
good.
absolutely, because that way the investor builder and the first owners can recoup that investment money.
Yeah.
So the challenge is you kind of have to watch, though, because if you buy that building that's 12 years old, you
You
only
have
have 3 years
to
left. Right? You buy the building that's 14 years old, you only have a year left. So, you do have to kind of be mindful, and you have to have somebody showing you the ropes who
Yeah.
can kind of explain that to you and let you know how long you have.
So we don't have rent control, but that's funny. So me and Brad own property. We're in basically Arizona, Colorado, and Nebraska.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm licensed in all 3 states, but it's interesting in Nebraska because we have SIDs, so our tax bills are higher. And so basically the city like fronts to pay for like the sewers and the street
Mm-hmm.
lights and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But we always say like you really won't have a lot of cash flow for the first like 12. Well, if you're living there, you're just living there, right? But
Sure.
you have a higher bill for 12 to 15 years until that is
Oh,
paid
got
off.
it.
So we're
Got
like
it.
opposite. We're like, just wait till you're at like 12 to 15 years and then that
And then
SID will fall off. And then at least you'll have a little bit more padding that you can work with.
yeah, no, here it is kind of okay. Once you hit that 15-year, and it's not that rent control then reduces the rent. But what it does is it limits the amount that you can raise the rent on a tenant who's living in the property.
So how does that work? So if you own a unit, you can't raise the rent over a certain amount. And I'm guessing you guys have also laws around like giving a 30-day notice, because like we can just tell somebody you have 30 days to move out. We don't have to give them a reason. But I think California is a little different.
Correct. For multifamily property, typically you have to have a cause. There has to be a reason to evict. It can be that, hey, I want to occupy one of the units in my
Mhm.
property, or a direct family member wants to occupy a unit in the building. But then you have to pay relocation fees if the property falls under rent stabilization. Yes, you have to help that tenant get into a new space.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how a lot of it works. So most people don't opt to evict. And part of that is, and I'm sure you see in other parts of the country, every now and then it comes up at least once a year about like the homeless crisis in Los Angeles, et cetera.
Mhm.
And so a lot of these are measures that are enacted to kind of keep people from being homeless,
Right.
right? If you evict someone from the property, and it's because you want to raise the rent or for you want to sell the building or something like that, you have to pay them relocation fees so that you're not adding to the
Mhm.
homeless population in Los Angeles. So that
Yep.
part of it I totally understand, right?
Yep.
Like
That
the
does make
laws are yeah, the laws are in place for a reason, but you still have to navigate them. And again, this is why, for my investors, a lot of times they prefer vacant buildings because that
Yeah,
way they can put in the new tenant, new construction. Everything is new. You don't have to worry about maintenance.
right.
You don't have to worry about fixing this or this breaking down or roof leaks or anything because you're buying new or recently renovated and you can then put in the tenant and you're not inheriting the problems from the previous landlord or
Totally.
inheriting the tenants who were there and their potential
Yeah.
problems, right?
We bought a building once and it had tenants in it.
Yeah, yeah,
We were also provided leases.
yeah. Oh, cool. Air quotes. I see
Yeah,
them.
air quotes. So we had one unit that we realized the lease that we were provided wasn't the tenant. So long story short, unit A, and so
Hmm.
it's 6 units, but unit A, it was like a mom. She knew that like unit B moved out, so she moved her son into unit B. So we
Mm.
like didn't have a lease for this guy. So
Hmm.
the police were like, we
Hmm.
can't do anything because we don't like. It was a mess. Like luckily we finally got him out, but it is so like we got a really good deal on it. So
Hmm.
all headache, like it was worth all the headaches. I hate to say that, but that it
Yeah.
paid off. But it's just crazy because I'm like, wow, every time we buy something like an apartment building, we learn a lot.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
we
Abs-
own three, and it's like all
yeah.
three of them we're like, oh,
And
new.
so this is why when we get an application, sometimes you'll get a family who says, "Oh, dad is the only one who we want on the lease."
Yep.
No, 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 no. I'm sorry. Everyone over 18 has to have an application. We have to know who they are and they have to be on the lease because what happens if person A moves out or person B moves
Yeah.
out? How do you know who's still living in the
Yeah.
property? And how do you know who you have paperwork on and who's responsible? So,
Yep.
yes, having that vacant unit, but when it comes time to fill it, everyone over 18 has to be on an application and has to be on a lease. And the lease
Yes.
is, and the, okay. So the other thing about California is our rental agreements have gotten ridiculously
Oh,
long.
I can't even imagine.
They're page after page after page of disclosures and rules and regulations and all of this. But it's basically the way that I look at it. You remember, I might be dating myself now, right? I may be telling on how old I am. But back in the 80s, there were all these shows like LA Law and Legal Eagles and all these shows about how litigious Southern California is, right? Or was. So basically, in real estate, to make anything that had been litigated about became a phrase or paragraph in our lease agreements and purchase agreements. So our purchase agreements just got longer and longer and longer
Oh
because
my
it's,
gosh.
hey, this is the rule about if you want to bring someone in, how long can they stay as a visitor before they're charged? This is the rule about what can be smoked and what can't be smoked in the unit or on the property. This is the paragraph about
What?
noise and nuisances. Like there are all of these different paragraphs in the lease that are, hey, so that we don't have a legal fight about this stuff, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's here. There are a lot of rules, there are a lot of regulations, but it's all spelled out in the paperwork for the most part. And I end up sitting down with tenants. It's so
It's like
such
we have to set our 4-hour appointment.
right, exactly, because we're going over all of it because you're going to sign each page. And that's part of that whole, let's try to make sure everybody knows what their rights and responsibilities are. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as you know what your rights and responsibilities are, you can kind of navigate, and we help people navigate all of that for the benefit of everybody, because we want the tenant to
Mm-hmm.
have a good experience, because that helps our property owners, investors have good
Totally.
experiences as well, right? If
Yeah.
everything's going well on the property, everybody knows who has to take out the trash on what day, then it becomes an easier thing for everyone to negotiate, and our investors won't get those calls, you
Right.
know.
Right. Setting the expectations is 99% of removing the headache factor.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yep. Yep.
So you brought up something, I can't remember if it was when we were recording it before, but you mentioned, we were talking about probate and how you help people, like basically you handle everything for people.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that has become a growing portion of our business now because there are a lot of folks who bought into LA in the 70s and 80s, grandma's house, right?
Mhm.
And the family has spread out and moved everywhere and they pass away. We have a lot of people contacting us from out of state who say, "Hey, I just inherited this house in Southern California. Can you help me with it?" And what it turns into a lot of times, protecting it from squatters is a big thing.
Yeah.
Security is a big thing. Maintenance and making sure that the roof isn't leaking, making sure that the property still holds value even while the family is going through the the probate process
Mhm.
and getting the property ready for sale. So what I found myself doing, and we've opened up a wing of the business dedicated to helping especially out of state owners deal with their properties here in Southern California. And we do everything from board ups and security. Like squatters are a big deal in some
Yeah.
areas.
I've been doing real estate for 15 years and I've
Uh-huh.
only had happen twice. And it's like in Nebraska, I think the police show up and remove them and they usually just call me because my sign's in the yard. But luckily we even never had to well, we did one time. We had,
It gets really challenging. Like, hopefully you didn't have to be in court too long.
no, there's no we don't have like squatters rights.
Okay, okay, yes, Southern California.
So we don't, there's
So
no,
so so this is it happens, and people
mhm.
tend to call me when they're going through it, right?
We just wait till they leave and change the locks.
Got it. So this has to be mitigated against, right?
Mhm.
Um, a squatter moves into a house, they will do things like start painting the walls and move their furniture in and be like, "This is my house now." The homeowner, the property owner, sometimes the administrator, executive, or personal representative will call the police. The police will show up to the house and the squatter will present a lease. This is my lease. I signed it. And this is the typical story. I gave some agent that I found online um, 3 months in advance or 6 months in advance plus my deposit. So I'm out $5,000 or $8,000 or whatever that payment is because they said and they advertised no credit check and I could just move right in. And the tenant presents that paperwork to the police officer. And the homeowner shows up or the administrator shows up with their paperwork and says, "I'm the owner of this property. They shouldn't be there." And the police officer goes, "I don't know whose paperwork is real. So
Wow.
I can't evict this person because they could be telling the truth. I don't
I guess
know."
that could happen in
Yeah.
Nebraska. I mean, anywhere.
So
It's just
so
more common there.
so typically what happens is the homeowner has to then file a notice of eviction. The squatter, excuse me, they're not a tenant, but will then have the ability to file their response. You'll have to wait for the court date. And then if both sides show up at the court date, then it can be adjudicated. But a savvy squatter will do things like, "Hey, I'm sick. I can't show up for this court date." And then it gets postponed 30, 60 days. Right.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then, yeah, or there are more filings that go back and forth. And so this delays and delays and delays. And what you don't want as an investor is to be caught in that cycle. What you can do, and what a lot of people don't know, if you post when the property is vacant, a no trespassing sign, and have the civil code on the sign, and you post it on the property while it's vacant, but then you have to do another step. Someone has to take the sign or a picture of the sign to the police station and register it as this property is
Oh,
vacant. Anyone caught on this property is now trespassing. Then when the police officers show up, they can say, "Oh, this property is registered as vacant, no trespassing. So I'm sorry, Mr. Squatter,
yeah.
you are now in violation, so you can be removed." But that step has to be taken prior to the squatter moving in or the break-in
Yep.
happening. And most homeowners, and most, especially if you're from out of state and you inherit a
You
property,
can't, right.
you don't know
And you
that.
don't know that. No, you
Right,
wouldn't even know to
right.
do that.
So it's about having someone on the ground who can say, hey, let's secure the property. Let's make sure you're protected. If anybody shows up at this point, they will be trespassing.
Yep.
And the sign has been registered. The property is known as a, no trespassing zone. And that person can be taken out and arrested for breaking in at that point. And so,
That's good. That's good.
yeah, it's just
Super good advice.
little stuff like that, yes, there are laws and there are protections. And if you get caught up because you're unaware, it can drag out. A lot of investors end up, and I hate to even put this out there, but sometimes they just end up paying the squatter.
Yeah.
Hey,
You pay people to leave.
yeah,
It
this is
sucks, but
because I know it's going to cost me X amount if I have to take them to court, and
yep.
it's going to take me this amount of time, and I'm going to be holding on to the house and having to pay property taxes and maintenance and everything else. So it's just more beneficial to just give that person money. And some of these folks, unfortunately, know that's going to be the outcome, and that's why they do it, right?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So being proactive to prevent those kinds of situations is super important. And that's the kind of thing that I help people with when they inherit properties here. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh my gosh,
hey,
I'll definitely send this episode, like anyone I know in Southern
okay.
California. This is great. This is great. So are you your own broker? Because you property manage, it sounds like, for people, or how does that all work?
So I don't necessarily property manage, but I will assist with the care of the property, right?
Perfect.
A
Yep.
property manager, you pay them a monthly fee, they take care of everything and send you a bill. No.
Yep.
But if you call me, or if I drive by the house and, there's a problem, I'll call you and say, "Hey, listen, there's a
Totally.
problem,
Yep.
and do you want me to get a plumber over there for you?" "Yeah, could you?" And then the investor talks directly with the plumber, makes a payment to the plumber,
Yes.
right? And if you need me there to like stand there while
Recommend.
yeah, happily do that, right?
Yes. We run our
Uh,
businesses very similar.
it's
I don't property manage, but I will happily connect you with will give you all the resources to be successful.
absolutely. And in terms of my own brokerage, no, I work with a wonderful broker called Normand and Associates. It's a family-owned brokerage.
Oh, nice. I love the
Um,
boutique brokerages.
Hey, you know
Right?
what? It's a boutique like it started as a boutique brokerage and
That's
it's
big.
still family owned,
Okay.
but we have 3 offices. We have an office in Beverly
Oh,
Hills, an office in Brentwood, and an office in Hollywood.
love
So
it.
we cover just about all of Los Angeles. And what I like about it, so I started with Coldwell Banker years and years ago,
Okay. You
right?
don't know Julie Patterson, do you?
Julie
In
Patterson.
Brentwood?
I know the name.
She's
We
a
haven't,
broker.
yeah,
She's
we
a friend of
haven't done
mine.
a deal. Oh,
Just fun.
excellent.
I know that like you, it's
Excellent.
like not like random news that I expect you to know who she is. That's just great.
I'm sure we have crossed paths.
She's
Um,
amazing. So if you ever cross paths with her, you guys will connect. You'll be good. Like she's good
excellent.
people.
Excellent. And I'll let her know that you said so.
Yes.
So what I liked about Coldwell Banker, super ethical, super client focused, super organized. That's where I started. That's sort of my background. I was with them for 8 years up until the housing crisis of 2008, 2009. Then I moved to this little brokerage that did short sales and foreclosures because that was the business during the housing crisis.
Totally. Yeah.
Foreclosure prevention and short sales, right? And after that, I got a call that several of my Coldwell Banker colleagues had moved to this
Yep.
this
Because I'm the Exodus.
family-owned
Aw.
brokerage
Yeah.
based out of Beverly Hills. And I went in and found the culture to be it was like a family, number one.
That's the best.
Number two, they carried the ethics and they carried sort of the structure of a Coldwell Banker without all of the corporate overlordness of a brokerage
Yeah.
like that. Gave us the flexibility to work with clients the way we needed to. If there was something kind of outside the box, easy to go and talk to the owner of the company, the managers, and be like, "Hey, I need help with this," or
Yep.
"Hey, can we, is there a way that we can figure this out?" They're really allowed for that flexibility that we needed
Yep.
as the market was coming back. So I've been happily here for 16 years.
Love it.
And
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's awesome. And you've been licensed for how long?
I've been licensed since 2001.
Oh,
So I'm in my 25th year. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
weird to think that, right? I'm like, when I said 15 years, I was like, is that right? There's no way.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Oh man.
It's
You
like
know.
now when we negotiate, we can finally be that one on the other side. I have been in this business.
I
I'm like,
try
I
to
hate that
avoid
so much.
I try to avoid saying that. I'm like,
I
oh,
hate when people, I'm like, ah, I'm like, but you
but
sold 2 houses a year. Who cares?
it's really funny because our license numbers are sequential, right? So you look
Yeah.
at my license number and people immediately know, oh, you're an old timer.
So that's funny because I got my broker's license like 10 years in, and
Mhm.
I got a new. So I looked like a brand new agent. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
this is
And you're like, no,
so
I've been
weird.
here for a long
I'm like,
time.
I've been doing this a minute.
But the crazy thing is, regardless of how long we've been in it, it changes every year. Every 6
Right.
months it changes. Everything with like the new NAR settlement things, and every
Oh
few
yeah.
years there's new stuff. Every year there's new contracts. Even if you've been in it forever, it all depends on like how engaged and involved you are. Are you staying up with all of the new rules,
Yep.
regulations, and laws? Are you staying up with all the new contracts? Do you
Totally.
know? And that's what keeps me, not to mention meeting all the new people and helping the new clients and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, and watching my families grow. Okay. This complete total side note,
Love it. Yes.
complete and total off, topic. This past April, a client of mine posted on Facebook that they made their last mortgage payment. I sold them their house
Oh,
in
hell no.
in 2002, and they were like, "Hey, we're on our way to the bank to make our last mortgage payment. We finally own this house. We are so happy.
Wow,
I
that's
have been
really
in
cool,
business
but
long enough."
also, yeah, you've been in the business a minute.
Yeah. And that's like a milestone. I am so happy for them. There are clients who, yes, pay off a house because they do this or they do that, or they, sell an investment property and they come in
Yeah,
with a lot of cash. So I've had clients buy properties cash, like, hey, I own it, haha.
right.
But it's really nice to say, oh my gosh, they just bought the house and raised their family in it and just made
That's
that
so cool.
payment and
Yeah.
have paid it off completely now. Like it's actually kind of thrilling. I think they bought their house for $267,000, and now it's worth like 1.7, and
Holy
it's
oh
completely
my
paid off.
gosh. That's the power of the California appreciation.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, And
That's
so
awesome.
when I'm dealing with like the home buyers are going to live in the house, because now that I've seen the ups and downs of the crazy market, right?
Yep.
We basically have 3 rules. Make sure you like where you live, make sure you can afford your payment, and make sure you know your payment isn't going to change. If you
Mhm.
follow those 3 rules, then regardless of what the market does, if it goes up or down or whatever, you're going to be just fine. And in the long run, California has proven time and time again, Southern California in particular, that any downturns are followed by an upswing. And
Mhm. And it comes out
you're
better.
you're gonna watch that appreciation happen. Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah,
in the 20 years going from 267,000 to 1,275,000, like
that's insane.
yes, yes. And now sitting on that asset just as their kids are leaving to go to college, like
Wow.
they don't have to worry about. They are
Right.
kind of set,
Yep. Oh,
So
I love that.
so
Okay, so final question. What's your favorite, like if you were a brand new agent coming in the business, brand new investor, what advice would you give them? Like book to read, podcast to listen to, daily habit, anything that's like, this is what helped me get to where I am.
that's interesting. I don't know. Do I want to talk about other people's podcasts on your podcast?
I don't know. Yeah, totally. Yes. We're a go giving community.
Got it. So the Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast,
Oh, not totally game changing.
as
Great.
a newer agent, highly recommend. Your podcast, obviously, it's
You
great
know what? I didn't
information.
know there was a Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast.
Oh no,
I've only ever read the book. I'm gonna have to
there
listen to
there
that.
is
Love it.
there is a podcast,
See,
and
I
they
learned something
actually
new. This is
there you
great.
go. They actually go through. They talk to very high performing agents from all over the country, and they actually give out their, hey, this is how I did it.
Love it.
And this works for me here, and it'll work for you, or potentially work for you, and it can potentially work for you wherever. Please take my idea and run with it.
Yep.
Like, that's kind of the vibe of that podcast. That's number one in terms of podcast. In holding open houses, holding as a new agent, like even as a seasoned agent, go back to holding open houses.
Yes, it's my number one lead source.
It is. And so I liken it to, if we were selling cars, we can call all the people that we know and everyone that we find and say, hey, do you want to buy a car? And if they don't want to buy a car, if they have a car, if
Right.
they're then you're just, making friends, which is great. It's good to
Yep.
make friends. But holding an open house is like being in the showroom.
Yeah.
You have people coming in saying, hey, I'd like to buy a car today. I have a guide.
Love
It's in
it.
my home buyer presentation, and it's basically 10 steps to buying a house in Southern California and what those 10 steps are.
I love your mission statement's there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Company, but
Absolutely.
that's a
My
great
mission
first.
statement is here. And so basically, whether you're buying that 250, well, there isn't much available for 250,000. Whether you're buying
now.
whether you're buying that $500,000 starter property or you're buying that $5 million estate, the process is exactly the same. And I do the same thing over and over and over again, even though for the client, as they're going through it, is totally new, right?
Yep.
So I just wrote it out and I said, okay, here they are. Here's the 10 steps that from the moment you have the idea, I want to invest or I want to buy property, to the moment I hand you your keys, right? This is what's going to happen. And what I find is when I engage buyers at an open house and I kind of let them know, hey, listen, I'm going to give you the roadmap and I'll walk you through it and I'll be with you every step of the way. People tend to go, hey, really? You're giving this to me for free? You're just giving me free information? Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, my mission statement is to help you. Like,
Yeah.
I want to, and my goal is, who can I help today and how much can I help them? And what I find is over the years, having that as the mindset comes back to me tenfold.
Yeah.
Because people go, oh, I like that guy. He's actually trying to help me. And I know that my needs will be taken care of if my client's needs are taken care of.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, what do you need today? How can I help? Right.
100%.
And I think as an agent, and especially if I'm giving advice to new agents, if you can kind of get that as part of your mindset, as part of what's in your heart, is that you're going to help somebody, then, you will be taken care of in the long run. That's kind of how I look at it.
I totally agree. It's hard when it is such an interesting, because when we first get in the business, it's like there's expenses and you're just trying to survive.
Right.
And so you're like, I'm giving up my time. I've given up my money. I'm driving around everywhere, but it's like, it does pay off. It's the initial investment. If you were to open a franchise, you would have fees up front anyways.
Absolutely.
You take out loans.
Absolutely.
So we have such a low cost of entry, and really just your service level is that's how you earn people's business and the referrals. And that's
absolutely,
it pays off in the long term so much. So, well, thank you, Mark. I loved having you on the show today.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Jamie, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate hearing about all of your success and the amazing people you have on this show. And I'm just honored to be included in that.
Thank you. We'll include all of your socials. So what's the easiest way for people to get a hold of you, Mark?
Easiest way is my email, marktherealtor@sbcglobal.net. Super easy to find. Check me out on my Instagram, Mark the Realtor LA. And, I'm just here to help.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you. All right. Take care, Jamie.
Thanks for tuning in to Invested Souls.
We hope you found our insights valuable and feel inspired to elevate your real estate and relationship goals.
If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us.
Follow us on social media for more tips and updates, or visit bradandjamieflanagan.com. And to find out more about our Real Estate Wealth Accelerator, don't hesitate to reach out.
Until next time, keep investing in your future and nurturing your relationships. Thanks for listening to Invested Souls.